of Trustees. In accordance with the town's remote participation and remote meeting policy adopted by the Board of Trustees on March 13th, 2023, by resolution number 21-R-2023, remote participation will be allowed. The meeting link has been provided on the town's website and designated posting place 24 hours prior to this meeting. I'd like to remind everyone present, both in person and virtually, of the town's general guidelines for public comment at open meetings and public hearings. Copies of these guidelines are available online and at the entry table. There are 2 public comment opportunities on the agenda for you to address the board on any subject, whether it is on the agenda or not. If you are here to comment about the public hearing for Grand Meadows subdivision planned unit development, overlay and zoning, and preliminary plat, you will be allowed to do that at that agenda item. Mary, roll call, please.
Mayor Whitlow.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright.
Here.
Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Broadhead. Trustee Harris.
Here.
Trustee Parr.
Here.
Trustee Schranz.
Here.
Mayor Whitlow, today is Monday, January 8th, 2024, and you do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. As we enter the new year, please join me in a moment of silence to honor all the innocent lives being threatened by war in many parts of this world. Thank you so much for your time, and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, thank you very much. The next is review and approve agenda is on our next agenda item. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as is. Second.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please, Mary.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright.
Yes.
Trustee Adams.
Yes.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Trustee Parr.
Yes.
Trustee Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. We have an agenda for this evening. Next is our staff report by our town manager. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Trustees, you do have my report. I just wanted to add that we were able to issue the temporary certificate of occupancy for Quick Trip today. So, and if you've been by there, you'll see that the signal's actually working now. It was in blinking mode. So they're going to spend the next 2 weeks until the grand opening, training staff, stocking shelves, and they've really worked well with us hand in glove. So shout out to our staff for getting on it and the great people at Quick Trip. So I think it's going to be a really good business for Mead. And a lot of people are going to go there instead of Firestone for their gas and munchies because it's going to be real easy to get on and off and get through that signal. So I just wanted to give a little data point. You know, we look at our financials every month and, you know, today we got to see sales tax from December. Things look great. They're as projected or even a little higher. And then I was taking a look at the assessment values and remember how we saw that we had this big jump. But I think it's important to know that the average residential jump after the state did the $50,000 and the 0.06 and all that stuff, the average residential value went up by 25%, but commercial went up by 103%. So when you look at that aggregate number that was like 70%, it's pretty much all buried in the commercial and how much that value went up. So I thought that was pretty interesting because it just didn't make sense when you started thinking, because most people didn't see a 70% jump in the value of their home. So I just thought I'd share that because, as you know, I love data. So anyways, and other than that, if you have any questions on my report.
Questions or comments for Helen? And Quick Trip's parking lot will be much better.
Yes, much better.
Thank you for your time. Thank you, staff, too. All right, we'll move on to our informational item for tonight. It will be our police department update by our chief. Sir, you have the floor.
Are up. He's one of our school resource officers. And he's going to talk to you just briefly about the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. This is a project that he came up with and has been working on, and it directly relates to his work with students at the high school. Andres.
Good day. Thank you, Mayor, for having me. So I'm here to talk to you guys real quick. I gave a brief actually to Marisol and Mary over here a few weeks ago in regards to the Juvenile Justice Online program we have. So this past summer, went to a conference. It's just part of my, keeping up on current stats and laws and everything in that nature. And there was obviously some discussion with the administration here at the school district and also with the principals, and looking for some alternative, some other options in reference to kids' choices, the students with their decisions that they're making. My whole thing what I've learned over my career is we got to try and find ways to educate them. Education is one thing. Obviously, there's a time and place for it, in my opinion. But also when it comes down to it, there's also a time and place where we can also exercise a little more discretion and see what we can do to help get these kids back on track and, give them some other options instead of just writing them a ticket, send them to court and becoming that process. So there was a presentation that was done. It was called Juvenile Justice Online, and it's out of the East Coast. It's a program that they started out there on the East Coast, and it's been working its way more this way. After meeting with the one of the co-founders and having a discussion with him, I liked it. It was really brief because he was scrambling it towards the end. So I did some research, started working with him in the month of July and going back and forth, and showing him my interest in regards to trying to bring it to the Mead area. With Mead being as small as it is, obviously our resources are limited in that regards. The school does what they try to do to help us out to find other options. So with us bringing that process in, I talked with Principal Young, met with his administration, said this is an option instead of writing tickets. Let's see if this will work. So I started implementing it, and sure enough, within the first week of school, had an opportunity to try it out. Unfortunately, one student failed, the other one did not. And then after that, it just kept coming in. So the violations that we're looking at is a plethora of them. We can look at the vaping, the nicotine violations. Right now, I'm looking at another option for THC, obviously, because that's just the way things are here in Colorado. Fighting was another one. Last year, I had a lot of disorderly conducts. I was having a lot of fights last year. So far this year, haven't had any. But trying to find other measures to do that. So with that, we also have, unfortunately, this technology nowadays. Sexting is another issue that we're having in schools. And with Colorado readjusting some of their laws in regards to the sexting, as long as it's mutual, it makes it a civil infraction. So if that being the case, after doing some research with it, it's also an option within the program. So as long as we get the parents to buy in on it, the kids can buy on it, they go through an educational process. So for each one of the violations that are currently out there right now, what it allows the SRO to do is that we can go ahead and look at the student's history based off the recommendation from the school. Obviously, we're going to look at behaviors, look at the types of violations they're committing. Is it something frequent, things of that nature? First-time offenders, we'll give them the option of basically doing the online program. And what it entails is we create an account for the parent and for the student. The parent gets the information. They have to physically go in and just create an email situation account. And that's all they have to do. It takes like 2 or 3 minutes of their time, and that's it. The consequence for the student is it makes them do everything. So they have to take classes online. Classes can range between a half an hour up to an hour. They have to pass a test. There's restrictions that they would have to do as far as like their parents will get free software for 30 days that actually is downloadable onto their apps, their phones and everything of that nature, so they can monitor them. It's basically cloning it. So the parents have full access. So that's a free option they have for that one of those programs. The other option is as far as like they can have curfew and straight restrictions. So if the parents want to do that, as long as they do that, school behaviors are monitored. So there's a contract that is created, and within that contract, it's what I'm trying to do is create a format that is basically standardized throughout the entire town in that regards. So far, I haven't had any pushback from any parents. All the parents are extremely excited about it. Kids are actually doing the work. I had several kids that I'm like, we'll see how this goes, but they did it. And they're very appreciative. I haven't had any repeat offenders yet. So it's actually working. The restriction can go between 30 to 60, 90 days. Right now, the magic number is 60, and it's working, seems to be working rather well. I got 2 more today. And Officer Barker had 2 more as well. I'm over at his school. So we're trying to look at ways of just trying to get these kids some education. The classes that are offered are very well done. If you want some more information on those, you're more than welcome. I'll give you that information. You can go check them out and you can even take a test if you want. It's just a great format. It's very simplistic. Apology letters is a big one that we've been having the kids do, and I'm surprised the kids are actually doing it and very genuine. Obviously, some are the way that they are, but you take it for face value because these are also teenagers you're working with. But we do the best we can. The parents, like I said, I'm getting the buy-in with the parents. The school's really excited about it. I was able to get an extension on the contract with the co-founder for 6 months. I was doing it for a while, so he was working with me. And I reached out to the school district for the executive director for safety and security, Richard Peebles, and him and I have been going back and forth for about a month and a half. And he agreed that he would go ahead and let us be the pilot program. So with that being said, the school district went ahead and sponsored and purchased a license for us for the remainder of the school year. And that's just for Mead. I did a presentation with the St. Marie School District officers, the SRO program. Lyons is extremely excited about it because they don't have anything out there. So that's Boulder County. So Boulder County can jump on as well. The cool thing about this whole thing is that the school district does purchase it and they decide to go forward with the whole process. It'll encompass all SROs within the St. Vrain Valley School District. And it's going to be free to the parents. So it doesn't cost anything to the parents. The license is paid for. And then what that'll do is it just makes it easier in for that buy-in. Now, my concern obviously is going to be, we're going to have some kids are just, eventually it's going to happen. They're going to make the same mistake twice. So we can up the ante, make it a little more restrictive, make them take additional courses. I did reach out to another company that does offer online courses as well for vaping, disorderly conduct, anything you can think of that we can currently have as far as municipal violations. And it's an additional charge of only $25. So I'm thinking, all right, let me see how I can work this into there. I'm trying to write up a whole program in that regards. So my little template that I'm working on now is just basically just the pilot program to see how we can get this to work and see if we can continue to build something off of it. The main buy-in with the school district is simply going to be is they want a standardized approach. Right now with everything, school resource officers, law enforcement being questioned in regards to what we're trying to do. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to help these kids. Like I said, we know they're going to make mistakes. So what can we do is offer them some educational opportunities. I also received some information from the state today. They're obviously doing some funding. So I'm going to be looking to that one, looking for some additional funding for preventative and educational opportunities as well. The funding I think will help us for the courses to try and get some more classes in that, because parents have asked, what do I know about vaping? So obviously getting that education out to parents and what they can do, what they can look for, and things in that regards. And also looking at devices that we can actually install in the schools. So they actually have the vaping device detectors. Believe it or not, they can actually stick them in certain locations and it sends a Wi-Fi signal to who is ever monitoring it, and it comes up that way so that we can go to that. The cool thing with schools is that there are cameras pretty much everywhere. The only place that don't have them is obviously restrooms or gymnasiums in the classrooms, but we have the hallway accesses, so we're able to monitor that stuff. So I'm looking at a variety of different options to try and take a preventative approach. Obviously, the Juvenile Justice Online program is what it is in that regards to try and get the education out there, but looking at other ways to try and keep them from having to go into the process. So as long as the kids know it, they're aware of it, the kids have been talking, they understand that I'm not the one that's just going to look the other way. I want to make sure that we do what we can to hold the kids accountable within an educational process first. Because a lot of them just don't want tickets, and it does affect some of them, athletics, things of that nature. They're all going to make mistakes. So this just gives them an opportunity to correct that kind of behavior. Right now I have a total of 10 that I've completed successfully, 1 failure, and I still have 4 more that are in the process. And of the 4, 2 of them will be completing the process next week. So I have 2 more successful completions in that regards. I'm also working with Firestone. They're working on their program out there to see if they can get some more stuff in there. So Firestones wants to jump on board. Frederick wants to jump on board. So we're just the one that's able to do it here. I'm very fortunate that I was able to get that hook up with there and to get the support from some of the other SROs saying, hey, we want something new. Let's try this, see if this works. So any questions you have, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Any questions for Officer Salazar? Herman, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that this program is at the high school levels?
At the high school and middle school as well.
Okay, so it is at the middle
Yes, sir.
schools too. Okay,
Yes, sir.
I was going to suggest that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
to date, we have 5 or 6 that have actually are going through it right now. two actually completed, 4 right now will be going through it.
Okay.
So
Thank
we're
you.
doing it there. You're welcome.
Questions? Outstanding. Thank you so much. Very much. And
All right, thank you.
congratulations on getting the stop kick it off.
Yes, it was
Yep.
where it goes. Thank you very much.
All
Thanks for
right,
your
thank
time.
you.
Take care.
Anything else, Chief, you want to add? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to our first public comment of the evening. The board welcomes public comment for any item, whether it is on the agenda or not. The board will listen to your comments and take them into consideration. If you desire a conversation, please email the board or the town manager or attend the monthly coffee with the mayor. If you wish to speak during this public comment period, please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Please start by stating your full name and address for the record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the Board of Trustees. If you are representing a group, you will have 5 minutes. Is there anyone here in the room that would like to address the board? Okay, is there anybody with us virtually that would like to speak to the board during this first public comment period?
No.
Okay, all right, we'll move on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda contains items which are considered routine and are approved with one motion and vote. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Harris,
Yes.
trustee Parr,
Yes.
trustee Shranz.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. The motion carries for our consent agenda. We had a lot on there, so thank you very much, staff, for putting this together for the trustees. Next is our public hearing for this evening. It's Grand Meadow Subdivision Plan Unit Development Overlay Zoning and Preliminary Plat. The public hearing tonight is regarding just what I just said, and we will hear from our staff, the applicant, and then we will seek input from the public before the board considers this ordinance. The time now is 6:17, and I will open the public hearing. And for our staff presentation, do I see Colin here? Oh, all right. Hey, Colin, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me, Mayor
Oh.
Lillo?
Yeah. All right, you have the floor.
Perfect. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. I appreciate you guys bearing with me as well as I present virtually here. I had a set of circumstances at home that required me to go home and take care of those. So I'll be virtual tonight. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, Colin, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So yeah, as you stated, Mayor Whitlow, tonight for your consideration, I'm bringing forward a plan unit development application as well as a preliminary plat application for the property known as Grand Meadow. So the applicant for the Grand Meadow project is Grand Meadow Investors LLC. The development itself is just over 100 acres in size. It's generally located east of County Road 9.5 and north of County Road 28. So to the north of the property, there are currently agricultural uses with some oil and gas development as well. To the east of the project, there are also currently agricultural uses with the planned expansion of the Barefoot Lake subdivision in the town of Firestone. To the west, to the south of the project is the existing Barefoot Lakes development as well within the town of Firestone. And then to the west, there are currently light industrial uses with the Ritchie Brothers Auctioneers Park. And so here's an aerial so you can get a better picture of where this project is in relation to the town. So as you can see on the far north across Highway 66 is that proposed Meadow Ridge subdivision. Directly to the east is the future Barefoot Lake subdivision, as well as to the south, the existing Barefoot Lakes, and then to the southwest, Lakeside Canyon, which is currently under construction. So the purpose of a plan unit development overlay is to allow for modifications of the standards of the underlying zoning district. So the current zoning for the property is RSF4, which allows for single family detached homes and a maximum density of 4 dwelling units per acre. So this PUD application before you tonight proposes a few modifications from the town's RSF4 standards. For the single-family detached lots that are proposed within the subdivision, the applicant is proposing a reduction in the minimum lot size from 6,250 square feet to down to 5,000 square feet. And then for the proposed single-family attached units, which will be duplexes, the applicant is requesting one, that duplexes be allowed as a use in the subdivision, as duplexes are not currently an allowed use in the RSF4 zoning. And then the applicant is also proposing reductions in the minimum lot width to 25 feet and reductions in the front yard setback to 15 feet and reductions in the rear yard setback to 15 feet as well. And then they're also requesting an increase in the maximum lot coverage from 50% up to 70%. So as I stated, with a PUD, we allow deviations from the code, and in return, the PUD has to provide a better product than would otherwise be provided under the strict RSF4 zoning. So one of the major components that we look for in an improvement in a development is more open space than is required by code. And so under our municipal code, we currently require the dedication of 20% of the gross site area for parks and open space. So with the Grand Meadow size, that would be roughly 22 acres. And with this PUD proposal, they're proposing to provide 33 acres roughly of parks and open space. And with this parks and open space, they're looking to have an interconnected trail system that will link both with County Road 9.5, County Road 28, and through to development. So it provides circulation within the site as well as to the broader town context. Another big improvement that staff has found with this project is that it's proposing to add diversity to the town's housing mix. So instead of just providing those single-family detached lots, this project is also proposing to provide duplex lots, which are smaller and a bit more affordable for residents looking to move into the town of Mead. And the PUD furthers the goals of the 2018 comprehensive plan by providing more growth to expand our economic base to help us attract commercial businesses to the town, as well as providing that diverse housing that I stated and economic development. And so here is an overview of the Grand Meadow project. So as you can see in the northwest of the project, over here, they're proposing those duplex lots along with a play area. And then in the southern portion are some of those single-family detached lots. And then also in the northeast, there's single-family detached lots as well. And then each kind of segment of the project has different play areas and open space that connects it throughout the development. So the current future land use designation for the property is single-family residential. So the comprehensive plan identifies single-family residential as clustered, medium-density residential development that allows for up to 4 dwelling units per acre. The comp plan also states that single-family residential development should promote neighborhoods with a mixture of densities. So this proposed PUD is consistent with the single-family residential designation. The PUD proposes an overall density of 3.63 dwelling units per acre, which is below that maximum of 4 dwelling units per acre. The proposed development also provides that cluster density that the comp plan is looking for, with the higher density duplex in the northwest corner of the property, and then the lower density single-family detached homes throughout the rest of the development. And then those single-family detached homes, they range in sizes throughout the development. And then, as I mentioned previously, the development also provides a well laid out parks and open space system that will provide recreational opportunities for the residents in this proposed development. So the establishment of a zoning designation is subject to review against 6 criteria within the code, with only one of these criteria needing to be met. Staff has found that the Grand Meadow development meets 2 of these criteria, which are shown before you on the slide. Staff finds that the Grand Meadow development meets criterion number 2, which is the need to rezone due to changing conditions in the town. Staff believes that the changing conditions of increased housing demand within the town, as well as the Front Range in general, is creating a changing condition for this area. The availability of water is also another changing condition that staff has found to be important. It's requiring lots to be smaller and with more attached dwelling units to more responsibly use water and to accommodate for housing demands. So smaller yards, smaller, irrigated surfaces to reduce that water use within the town. The proposed development also meets criterion number 6, which is the need for innovative and creative design. Staff finds that it meets criterion number 6 by promoting a diversity of attached and detached housing options, as well as a well-planned open space plan that provides connections within internal trails, as well as to the broader town network. So moving on to the preliminary plat that is also being proposed tonight with the PUD. The plat application proposes a total of 373 total lots, with 223 single-family lots and 150 duplex lots. Single-family lots range in size from 5,000 square feet all the way up to 14,000, just over 14,000 square feet. And then those duplex lots range in size from 2,000 square feet up to just about 4,000 square feet. So the plat includes 1 neighborhood park, 2 pocket parks, and 2 multi-purpose fields within the development, along with that system of trails and open space that I've previously mentioned. So in total, the development will include just over 33 acres of open space and parks, which exceeds that 20% max or 20% minimum that I previously mentioned. So here's an overview of the preliminary plat for your reference, which directly corresponds with the PUD concept that you saw earlier. And then on the left as well, these are some of the lot layouts that the applicant is proposing for both the single family detached and the single family attached. So the lot envelope on the top is the single family attached envelope. And so anything on that preliminary plat may be hard to see. With the red dots are the 50-foot duplex lots, and then anything with the green dots are a larger 58-foot in width duplex lot. And then the green and the lighter green and purple dots on the single family detached lots are shown in the lot envelopes on the bottom, with those lighter green dots being the larger 60-foot width lots that are being proposed, and then those purple dots with the smaller 50-foot in lot width lots. So there's more of the 50-foot with some of those 60-foot detached homes spread throughout. So for a preliminary plat, we have a set of review criteria that's provided in both your packet as well as here on these slides. And the preliminary plat needs to meet each one of these criteria. So the first one being the functional system of land use, or the proposal has to be a functional system of land use and has to be consistent with the land use code and the comprehensive plan. So staff has found that land use code meets the dimensional and design standards within the PUD that's being proposed, and then anything that's not addressed in the PUD meets the current Mead land use code. And then, as I discussed earlier, staff also finds that the proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan land use designations of single family residential. Number 2 is that a proposal needs to be consistent with the sketch plan. The sketch plan and the preliminary plat have several similar elements, and so we process those concurrently. So we don't do those as a separate process anymore. We just run those as one. So the third criteria is that the proposal must conform with the zoning district map and the land use map. So as you can see on the bottom left, that's the current zoning map showing the property designated as RSF4, as well as the PUD overlay. If approved tonight, then that PUD overlay would sit over top of that RSF4. And then on the bottom right is the future land use map from the comprehensive plan. And so it shows that property as single family residential. And as we discussed, staff finds that this proposal complies with the single family residential future land use designation by providing clustered density, clustered single family density, and ample open space. So the preliminary plat also needs to further these listed goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. So just to highlight a few of these, the development will add diversity to the town's housing stock and housing options by providing that single family attached product, which the town currently does not have, and is in high demand both in the town and in the Front Range. Then it also provides smaller single family detached housing product as well, which we're seeing a rise in demand both here in the town and, as I mentioned, in the Front Range. And then the proposed development will also benefit the town's economic base by providing new residents and potential customers for Mead's businesses, especially being located on that vital County Road 9.5 arterial that's going to run through the east side of town. This will be a great opportunity to expand the consumer base for the businesses that'll go in along 9.5 as well as 66, just to the north of the project. And then, as I mentioned as well, the plat proposes to dedicate just over 33 acres of land, which far exceeds that 20% open space dedication requirement. And incorporate several parks, trails, multi-purpose fields within that park and open space to really make it work as a development. So the proposed utility and transportation systems have been reviewed by the town staff as well and external agencies and have been found to adequately serve the proposed development. The proposal will comply with the town's adopted transportation plan as well as our adopted engineering standards. And then any infrastructure required for the project will be constructed at the time of development in order to provide adequate facilities to accommodate these new residents that'll be moving in. Any negative impacts on adjacent land uses have been identified through the review process and accounted for. One of the main negative impacts of the Grand Meadow development would be the increased number of vehicle trips onto the town's roadway network. And so the developer will construct the necessary improvements to County Road 9.5 to mitigate the effects of this additional traffic. So that includes a traffic signal at 9.5 and County Road 28. And then impacts relating to the broader roadway network within the town will be mitigated through the collection of impact fees when building permits are pulled for the homes within this development. And then for that final point, the Grand Meadow development will address the growing demand for housing in the region, as well as increase the town's housing stock. The project proposes to provide those duplex lots, which the town currently doesn't have in their housing stock, as well as a greater variety of smaller single-family detached housing products, which are also in high demand. So after reviewing the application, staff has found that both the PUD overlay and the preliminary plat are in compliance with the land use code as well as the town comprehensive plan. Staff recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the PUD overlay as well as preliminary plat via the suggested motions in your packet. And I know the applicant is in attendance as well, and they prepared a small presentation that they would like to give to you as well.
Thank you, Colin. Good evening, sir. How are you?
How's that? Can you hear me? All right. Well, thank you very much for making time for me tonight. I know that, let me start with an introduction. Jason Pock, my last name is spelled P as in Papa, O-C-K, 4100 East Mississippi Avenue, Unit 500, Glendale, Colorado 80246. Thank you for making time. I know that it's a cold, wintry night. I know that there is a big college football game tonight. I will be respectful of your time. We are very excited to be presenting this project to you, to be in your community. I will get right into it. Colin, are you moving the slides for me? Or can I do them? Oh, I see it here. Thank you. Great. All right, well, let's start with some quick introductions. Again, my name is Jason. In the gray sweater over in the corner is my colleague, Matt Hingle. The two of us work for a company called Westside Investment Partners. We are the owner's representative and project manager for Grand Meadow here. We have enlisted the exceptional team of engineers and consultants at WSB. With me in the white shirt is Jim Mill, and in the blue sweater is Edgar Robles. I will do the presentation. They're here to answer any technical questions you may have about utilities or street widths or really anything else. Okay, so we'll keep this pretty high level. I'm going to show a development timeline first. I think that kind of helps to answer the question of who we are and how we got here and kind of set a roadmap for what to expect in the near future. Then we'll do a quick overview of the project, trying not to duplicate the stuff that staff has already presented, share with you some notes about the design, and then I'll finish with any questions that you all might have for me. This here, by the way, is a picture from County Road 28 looking west. I like to show this here because it gives you a little bit of quick context. You are all familiar with this area, but on the left, those homes are Barefoot Lakes. On the right, that vacant field there is Grand Meadow. All right, so jumping into this timeline here, let me get you oriented real quick. On the left, 2021, on the right, 2027. We are roughly halfway at 2024 in the middle of the screen there. So Grand Meadow began a couple years ago. A builder was the applicant, a home builder. This was in the end of 21. The builder saw this as a property that they wanted to develop. They thought it would be great for a residential community. They put the property under contract and they began putting resources into it, time and money into consulting and engineering to make their vision happen. They put quite a bit of work into it. And in late 22, they brought it to Planning Commission, which gave its endorsement of the plans. Unfortunately, in 2022, we all know that housing had an adjustment. In 21, rates were still at historic lows. There was great demand from home buyers. The climate changed very dramatically in 22 when rates returned high, and a lot of folks that were would-be buyers took a step back. I, of course, can't speak for the home builder, but I can imagine that when those prospective buyers stepped back, when rates went high, when there was uncertainty about the economy, when they were putting a lot of resources into something that they didn't own, they were probably getting a lot of pressure from their home office to pull back. And so they did. They terminated the contract to buy this piece of ground. And so the ground sat vacant for about a year. And the folks that Matt and I represent saw this as an opportunity, really a win-win-win opportunity. We purchased the property from the prior owner with a quick close. We worked with that prior applicant, that home builder, to purchase from them their work product to help them to be more whole for the resources they put into it. And our expectation is to make no wholesale changes to this community, simply to complete this process, do some cleanup work as necessary, and really just to see this to completion. And so that's where we are today. So again, we are not the original applicant, but this is the original project. And again, I see this as a win-win-win for the builder, for the prior owner, and of course, for all folks that want to see this happen. So we're in front of you, the Board of Trustees tonight. My hope is that by the summer, we will have platted and engineered lots. At that point, we, Matt and I, will facilitate some sort of out sale with home builders. Perhaps the original applicant, perhaps others. The climate has changed in home building a bit, but as we all know, there is still tremendous demand for housing in the Front Range. And so we think even though the climate is a little bit different, there is still great long-term value in this. And what may need to happen is we simply need to find multiple builders, one for the different product segments, or perhaps to right size the amount of lots that each home builder is going to build, whatever the case may be. Both Matt and I have spent more than a decade in home building, so we know it very well. We know the folks involved, and we have a lot of the requisite skills to make that happen. For example, any sort of facilitation related to creating a homeowners association or otherwise, to making sure that this is a shovel-ready project with finding the right import dirt. All these things we're prepared to do and to see this through. So, best case scenario, I see us working with a home builder in late 2024 with construction beginning of the horizontal development by year's end. And when I say horizontal development, I mean, of course, the utilities, the street improvements, things like that. That would put the builder in a good position to start constructing the first homes by summer of 2025. And if all goes according to plan, I think that we could see this community fully built out by the end of 2027. Now, that being said, the folks that we represent have purchased this property free and clear, and we are prepared for any contingencies in that timeline. We are committed to seeing this project through. Okay. And which way? This way. My colleague Matt told me if I get into trouble, just make some sort of football reference or drop some sort of football puns. All right, thank you. Okay, let's shift to the project overview. Hopefully that timeline kind of gave you a familiarity with who we are and where we're going. Colin did a great job of presenting the project to you. I won't duplicate any of that. I will help orient just a little bit. One thing that may or may not be clear from the colored rendering here is that those paired homes, those duplex homes in the northwest corner, those are all on private alleys. So when we talk about that setback there, we're talking about the garage from the alley, not the front of the home. All of those homes are oriented towards open spaces and to parks and things. We'll talk about this a little bit more in the coming slides on the design, but you'll see that we've included only single-family detached, traditional suburban, rural kind of detached homes on that southern boundary closest to Barefoot Lakes, just to make sure that we're respecting the context of the area. Benefits of this? Well, we think there are many. As Colin mentioned, we're adding to the housing stock, and we're doing so in a way that is bringing in some different type of housing. We are far exceeding the parks and open space. When we talk about shrinking the size of the lot slightly, what we're doing is we're really putting that activated open space for common use for the whole neighborhood, as opposed to limiting it to, say, somebody's front yard or their side yard. And so I would like you to, if you can, reframe your view of us not shrinking the size of the lot to shortchange any of the buyers, but really putting that open space to everybody's use and having it commonly maintained. And I think that's to everyone's benefit. We've got great connectivity here with our parks and trails, very walkable, bikeable neighborhood. As Colin mentioned, we're doing improvements to the surrounding roadways as well. Okay, so let's talk about the design, and maybe I'll jump here and again forward to say that the design aesthetic here is sort of a modified grid system. And I like that because it pays tribute to the traditions and history of Western small towns, including Mead. And it wouldn't be Grand Meadow without a grand entrance. And we see that on the south with that main entrance coming up the middle. And we have all of these tree-lined streets. And so I think what we're doing is we're sort of paying tribute to the history of the area with the way that the lots are laid out. And we're giving a lasting sort of idyllic character with that entrance and those tree-lined streets. There's subtle details, but the idea here is to create something that is desirable, not just for the first generation of homeowners, but those future generations. So let's talk about the design of the homes, because of course, everybody's wondering what these homes are going to look like. Again, the folks that we represent, the owners of the property, we are not the home builders. We'll be working with the home builders moving forward. These are the original elevations, the original architectural styles that the builder applicant had prepared a couple years ago, and they are still relevant today. And the reason is we see this as traditional architectural styles and quality exterior materials. I'm talking about familiar Colorado craftsmen, prairie, farmhouse looks of homes, cementitious siding that is going to stand up to the elements here in Colorado, masonry wainscot as appropriate. These are going to be traditional and attractive looking homes. The left side of your screen being the duplexes, the right side of the screen being the single family homes. We'll moderate this, of course, in that any of the final home building designs will need to be to the standards of the town. And Matt and I, in our out sale agreements with the builders, will also be approving their architecture. All right, I have just another slide or so here. Another thing that informs our site design is, of course, the parks and open spaces. One of the more fun things that we get to do is to sort of put a hand to what the parks are. I have 2 young kids, and so I'm always interested to see what they propagate to when we go to the parks on the weekends. But we're talking about activating these spaces as you would hope to see them. With play structures, with picnic benches and seating, with shade structures as appropriate, really making the difference between just having some open space set aside and making that open space desirable for everyone. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. I appreciate you bearing with me here. More than happy to answer your questions. Let me know.
Well, first, we'll ask if the public has any questions, and then we'll go to the trustees to ask questions or concerns. So is there any member of the public would like to speak on this matter? We request that you would please adhere to our public hearing guidelines. If you are here with us virtually, please indicate by raising your hand. Is there anyone here in the room that would like to speak on during this public hearing that's in this room? Okay, seeing none. Is there anybody with us virtually that would like to speak or ask questions for the applicant or staff on this matter? Okay, thank you very much, Mary. All right, do any of the trustees have comments or questions for either the staff or our applicant tonight? Herman?
Just a couple of questions, Jason. And these are just questions that are of interest to me, and maybe the rest of the board members, I don't know, but the duplexes, are they geared to be available to anybody, or are we looking at 55 plus kind of community?
That's a great question. We did not set out with any sort of expectations of restricting the buyer profile here. In my experience over the past several years, there is strong interest from 55 plus in this type of house product, regardless of the fact that there's bedrooms on the second floor, simply because I find that in that profile, a lot of folks are kind of looking to right size the amount of home maintenance they have. But I also see this as very appealing for a young professional, somebody that maybe is getting started with homeownership for the first time, a young family or otherwise.
And I understand that and I get that. I only ask because that's something that's coming down, I think, in our future is we need to start looking for our aging community
Yeah.
as to where they're going to be
Right.
able to house. So that's why the question. Second of all, I would tell you, I'm in support of the smaller lot sizes. Not for your reasons, but mine is for water conservation. And it seems to be that a lot of young people right now are not interested in doing yard work and things of that nature anyway. But I like the water conservation piece of the smaller. The duplexes, again, just another question. What I didn't see in the picture was parking. Are these the ones that have the rear parking in the back or garages in the back or something?
Parking is a great question. Yeah. So these paired homes are duplex homes are alley loaded. They would have a 2-car garage on the alley. And then there would be, I think we have something on the order of 56 guest parking spaces in the area.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but there will be garages for the.
There will be,
homeowners
yes.
themselves. Okay,
Correct.
good, thank you. And my last question, and this is more of a curiosity because I see it everywhere. It seems that we do more house building with 2-car garages instead of 3. And we have families who have more cars than they used to have. So it kind of flies in the face of why did we go the other way?
That's a great question. So you'll see that our plan has a combination of 50-foot wide and 60-foot wide single-family detached, which makes them appropriate for a traditional suburban rural style home with a 2-car or a 3-car, depending on the lot size.
Okay, so there is an option for 3.
There is an option on it. I want to say, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I want to say roughly a third of them are the 3-car option. And we've loaded it that way because we expect more people will be buying on price than on the 3-car.
Correct. Okay, thank you. That's all the questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Aaron. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Okay, expanding on what Herman, I was gonna ask about the parking for the duplex lots too. You had 56 extra parking spaces in there. Where are those parking spaces? Because I'm looking at this and I don't see any extra parking spaces. And I realize this is a drawing, a rendering. It's not perfect. But I don't see any extra parking in there. And I don't know where people are gonna park when they have people visiting them.
Yeah, and I appreciate it's a fair question. Obviously, in high density communities, parking is always a constraint. I first want to point out that in the broader community, the single family detached homes have 2-car garages or 3-car garages, full length driveways for 2 or 3 cars, plus on-street parking. Then the parking issue in my mind is more specifically limited to that pocket of duplex homes.
Correct. That's what I'm concerned about is the duplex area.
I'm not sure that we have a parking exhibit specifically, but we could certainly put one together if you're curious there. But
I am concerned about that.
Okay.
I'm looking at that and I am very concerned that there is nowhere for anybody to park. The other thing I'm seeing in that duplex area is if there's, so the 2-car garage then I'm assuming is placed close enough to the alley that there is not enough of a driveway to park additional cars like on an extra driveway space, or is that wrong?
No, you're correct. So there are different approaches in different municipalities. Generally, when you have alley loaded, my experience says that the apron should be 5 feet or less because you don't want to create the appearance that there's enough room for a vehicle when there's not. You know, if you have a 20-foot vehicle and a 10-foot apron, then you would have half the car sticking into the alley, impeding everybody's movement. So these are intentionally designed to that kind of 5-foot number there to make it clear that parking is not allowed. The alleys are also privately owned and maintained by the association, so they would have the ability to enforce.
Okay, is Jason, where's Jason? Oh, sorry, Jason, not looking right through you. So we just redid all of our parking standards. This is a multifamily unit area. What are they required to have for parking and what are they required to show us before we approve this PUD?
Yeah, so a PUD is an overlay district, so we have the opportunity to create our own regulations. I'm going to let Colin answer the question on the specifics for The parking in here, because I do seem to remember that there was guest parking that was accommodated.
9. Oh gosh, what page am I on? Oh, I'm on 166.
Marisol, if you could let me share my screen, I can zoom in and show you the little parking parklets.
Okay, here's 149. Okay, the same one that I was looking at, but where?
Can you all see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Not anymore.
Okay, so it's these little things right
Yes.
here.
Yeah,
There
so
we
you see
go,
the
yeah.
little three
Okay,
dots?
so you have to blow those up.
Yeah, that's what he's doing here.
Yeah, so there's about
Okay.
like 5 here and 3 here, and then 5 or 6 over here.
Okay, and so does that meet our requirements then for our multifamily park?
So this was
Or is this different?
established before our parking regulations were changed, so this hasn't been reviewed against those new standards that were established, but this is meeting the intent of those new parking standards where if you remember before, our parking standards did not require guest parking for this type of product. Now we do. So I haven't looked to see if the quantity matches exactly what we just passed a couple months ago. But that was a major component of reviewing this plan to make sure that there was guest parking spread throughout that single family attached neighborhood.
Yeah. and just-
Colin, do you
Oh, sorry.
remember what the number is for guest parking?
Yeah, so it's required to be, at the time, it was 1 enclosed and then 1 per 3 units for visitors.
Okay,
And so they provided 52 for visitors, which meets that 1 space per 3 units. And then
Yep.
as Jason discussed, there will be 1 enclosed within each duplex with the rear loaded garages.
yeah, so that is meeting those standards that we recently just
Okay,
adopted.
all right, I just want to make sure. I did not see all those tiny. ones.
Yep.
Did not blow it up big enough
I'm
for that,
glad
I
I'm
guess.
glad you asked. That's really, really important, and that's something we do not want to.
It is, yeah. Well, and the other thing I was gonna ask was about pass-throughs, but since you said there's no place to park on the backside, that is kind of irrelevant, I guess, for as far as people getting out on the backside if they had extra parking and walking through. That's irrelevant. Okay, does your 33 acres include the oil and gas areas? Your 33 acres of open space include the oil and gas areas that are really unusable to the residents?
Jim says yes.
So what's your area that's in taking those areas out? What do you have for open space? Do we not have to worry about that? It doesn't have to be usable open space. It can be any open space, even if it's occupied by a gas or an oil well?
Didn't we have that discussion about the retention ponds? Once before, and what does?
Yeah, so with retention ponds, it's if there's a trail or something around the detention ponds, to see how this trail kind of incorporates it into the landscape, then it's allowed to be counted as 50%.
Did that around the gas.
So do we not have an answer then?
There's trails around the gas wells.
Sound like it. That's a great question.
Yeah.
I guess I'd like to know what their open space is without the oil and gas wells that are really not usable to the people and what percentage or what because I know you had like 22 is the minimum, they're including 33.
Yeah.
And what's the percentage when you exclude the oil and gas wells?
Yeah, and oil and gas wells cannot exist within that open space calculation. Colin,
Okay.
are you able to verify that?
Verify the acreage or the
That the acreage for open space is not including the oil and gas setbacks?
my understanding was it was not including.
Yeah, it's not, it shouldn't be.
Okay, because he said yes, and you're saying no.
Yeah, so the total tract area is 42 acres, and then when you take the area of the gas well location,
Oh, there we are.
to
Okay,
34, a little under 34 acres. So yeah, right around that 33 acreage.
okay, good to know.
Sure.
Thank you. All right. So, the roadways around it, I see that there's only one exit, or well, I guess 2 exits technically. One being on County Road 28, and the other being on I don't know what the one is east of 9.5.
11.
11, thank you. Wasn't sure what county
Okay.
road that is. that one's currently dirt, correct? Are you guys going to be paving that entire thing so that there's more than one paved exit out of the neighborhood?
Yes, I think that there are 2 exits on that road over there.
There's a third one up top, but it's not going to anything. Right now it dead ends in farmland. And so the 2 at the top, dead end in farmland. So those 2 aren't counting initially. I'm just looking at the 2 that actually have current roadways connected to them and just making sure there's 2 paved exits for people getting out of there. And it said you were putting in a light at 9.5 and 28. Are they gonna be putting in a light at 66 and 11? Or why would they be required to put one in there but not up there? Maybe, I don't know who would answer that question.
I can jump in on that.
Okay.
So County Road 11 is actually under the jurisdiction of Firestone. And you can jump in and correct me on this if I'm wrong, but my recollection is that the road is going to be paved by Firestone in conjunction with the Barefoot Lake subdivision.
Oh, okay.
And the talk was, and I'm not sure if this is the same, but there would be right-of-way dedication from this project as well as the other 2/3 of the project ultimately, so that it would achieve the right width that it needs to be to meet Firestone standards as would ours. I believe a signal is going in at 11 and 66 through the town of Firestone. I believe I saw that in an agreement with the Barefoot Lake people. So, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's what I understood. Is that true?
I appreciate that. I'll defer to these guys on that traffic signal, but I do want to comment on that boundary street there. We expected to do our improvements to the surrounding roads, including that County Road 11 on the east side there. That would be a separate plan submittal to the town of Firestone, since it is Firestone jurisdiction. And it also would require us to coordinate with the master developer for Barefoot Lakes based on the timing. They're actively pursuing their filing 7, which is the subdivision directly east of this. And so what we'll need to figure out is who is going to get to the finish line first, who will then do the construction of that road, and then the other one would reimburse their requisite share of it.
Okay, makes sense. All right, perfect. I don't see anything about fencing in the PUD. Was there something that showed the type of fencing that you're looking to use? I didn't see anything in the little pictures that you had of different houses and benches and other things.
I don't have any strong feelings about fences. I can tell you that the buyers generally prefer privacy fence because they want to have their space feel their own. I'll tell you that developers in general prefer to have open rail fencing because it creates, in some people's view, a more attractive a look throughout the community. I think that if the board here has any strong feelings, we'll be happy to make any accommodations.
You know what your HOAs are gonna do? What they'll require fencing wise?
What type of fencing they will require? We will be involved in the formation of the homeowners association. So the expectation would be we would choose a fence detail that everyone is comfortable with. We would mandate that as the single style for the community. We would specify a single fence stain color or clear sealer, just to make sure that whatever the resulting fence is, everything is done with a sort of a clean and homogeneous look. So in my view, it's really a matter of open rail versus privacy. But again, I don't have any strong feelings about it.
I happen to have strong feelings.
Please.
Sorry, I bring this up every time a new development comes in. I bring this
I
up because I
appreciate
do
it.
have strong feelings about it. I hate those little 3-foot high split rail fences. I hate them
Yeah.
because people's dogs jump them.
Okay.
And people aren't allowed to modify them in any way per their HOA covenants. And then they end up having to give their dog away because their dog jumps their fence and they can't prevent it in any way, shape, or form due to HOA covenants.
Yep.
So while I don't really necessarily care about whether it's split rail with like a welded wire visibility wise or whether it's privacy, I hate those short little fences. I think they should be a minimum of 4 feet tall, if not 5. actually really like Barefoot Lakes because they have, they're like 5 feet tall, but they're very open looking with the split rail and the welded wire. I just hate for people to move into these homes and say they get a puppy and 6 months or a year down the road, that puppy's suddenly a dog and it's jumping over their fence. And they're like, well, crap, now I have to find it a new home because it's jumping my fence. Or I have to move, right? And
Yeah.
neither option is very fun.
No.
So I actually have very strong feelings on that.
Well, on behalf of the applicant developer here, I will submit to you, we will not do fences less than 4 feet tall. And we will,
Thank you.
and we will not ask people to give away their puppies.
All right, I appreciate that. Okay, last thing on my
Go a
list.
long way.
It is, Pete. Well, a lot of the younger generation don't have kids, they have pets. They have
This is true.
dogs. And that's important to them, to have a yard that their dog can get out of. Last thing on my list, do you have anything in mind for solar incentives on these homes?
No, there are some pretty strong requirements about homes are required to be solar ready with conduit and things like that. But in terms of incentives, I don't think that we've even thought that far.
Okay. I mean, I know there's a lot of neighborhoods popping up that are now, encouraging people to put at least some solar panels on their homes to try to move towards, more renewable energy. And I'd love to see our incoming neighborhoods encourage that because we're headed that direction with a large solar farm coming to town. And I think that, anything we can do to make it easier for people to.
I appreciate that. And I don't mean to speak over you. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I will happily remove any barriers I can to making the homes solar ready, solar available, even helping to connect folks with solar providers. What I'm disinclined to do, if I have your support, is to require the solar, because that is that's another large cost that's added to the base price of every home. And I think that that's one thing that we're trying to avoid here.
But I think to Trustee Harris's point, due to the new electrical code, you're gonna have to have it wired and ready to go. So half the battle's already done. May not be a bad idea to offer the home buyer that option.
Yep.
To put solar on it. You don't have to.
As part of a package, as
Yeah.
opposed to having to separately go out of their way to get it from like Sunrun or a separate solar provider, to have your builders or somebody kind of already in when they come to the sales office. Hey, look, we also have a solar provider that we can tack that on and just make it easy for people.
I think that makes sense.
That's
right.
it for me.
Thank you. Trustee Adams.
I just had one quick question that you had kind of brought up that spurred a thought on the duplexes for the 55 and over. We were talking about some of that. Do any of them or any of the floor plans offer a main floor master in that?
So it's a great question. We have not designed the specific house plans for these lots yet, because we have sort of taken that role of completing the master planning of this community, and we'll then work with a builder on the out sale. So it would be the builder's house plans on this. Some of the paired home lots, the duplex lots, are oversized at 29 foot wide, and so they may be able to accommodate a larger footprint. The tricky part with the narrower lot size on a duplex is that you're trying to combine that sort of main floor living space, kitchen, and so forth. And so you may find that a bedroom is squeezed, and it may be more appropriate for a secondary bedroom or a flex room that, could also be an office. It's something I would like to be able to do, but it may be too far along in this process, specifically here.
Okay, appreciate that.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure, because think we brushed over it. You are planning on putting a light at 9.5 and 26?
28.
Sorry,
Yeah.
28. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, because the traffic level is going to increase astronomically right there, and it's already bad as it is. And then the development will not at any point connect to 9.5 as a street coming off of it anywhere?
No, the layout you see here is virtually complete.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because 9.5 is a busy road, and if
And
people
there's
find a shortcut, they're gonna use it.
there's a bit of a grade differential too, so it's also sort of an unnecessary engineering challenge to try to ramp up to get to 9.5 on that side.
Any further questions? All right, thanks. Thank you very much for your time
Thank you.
and everyone that came with you. Thank you. All right, is there a motion regarding ordinance number 1051 tonight?
I move to approve ordinance number 1051, an ordinance the town of Mead of Colorado approving with conditions the rezoning of the Grand Meadow subdivision from RS4 to RS4 with a PUD overlay and amending the official zoning map.
A second.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Shranz,
Yes.
trustee Parr,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries for ordinance number 1051. We'll move on to resolution number 8, R 2024. Is there a motion for that resolution?
I'll move to accept resolution number 08R 2024, a resolution of the town of Mead, Colorado, conditionally approving the Grand Meadow subdivision preliminary plat.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Shranz,
Yes.
trustee Parr,
Yes.
trustee Harris,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Motion carries for resolution number 8 R 2024. And I will now close this public hearing at 7:11. Next is our second public comment of the evening. We have no further general business, so this, we will go into this next agenda item. We'll follow the same guidelines previously stated. Is there anyone here in the room that would like to speak to the board during this public comment? Okay, is there anybody with us virtually that would like to speak to the board?
No.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to elected official reports. Any of the town trustees would like to report on anything? All right, I would just like to say that we had a wonderful retreat going in for 2024 and Coffee with the Mayor was awesome. So thank you very much, Mary and your staff for joining and making the best coffee in the town of Mead. And thank you for those folks who actually come on Saturdays to have great conversations and meet new people and have a good time. Next, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Shranz,
Yes.
trustee Parr,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. The January 8th, 2024 regular meeting of the Board of Trustees is now adjourned at 7:13. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us tonight. Please drive carefully and stay warm.